They looked like soldiers. They sounded like a division. But they were ghosts. Rubber tanks, recorded gunfire, actors playing generals, and they fooled the Nazi war machine. This is the story the U.S. Army hid for decades, not because it failed, but because it worked too well. This is the Ghost Army. In 1944, as Allied forces pushed through Nazi-occupied Europe, the U.S. Army activated one of the strangest units ever formed. Officially, it was the 23rd Headquarters Special Troops. Unofficially, it was a traveling roadshow of deception. Their mission: pretend to be bigger, louder, and deadlier than they really were. They weren't built to fight. They were built to lie, to mislead, to make the Germans think entire divisions were moving where there were none. And they did it all while barely firing a shot. They used inflatable tanks that looked real from the air, convoys of fake trucks, artillery that could be picked up by two men. They blasted pre-recorded sounds of troop movements and tanks from powerful speakers, so loud they could be heard 15 miles away. They painted fake unit numbers on their trucks. They wore the wrong insignias. They even sent men into enemy towns posing as drunk officers to spread lies that the Germans would report back up their chain of command. It was deception as performance art, and the battlefield was their stage. The Ghost Army wasn't made up of typical soldiers. It was filled with artists, sound engineers, set designers, and painters. Recruited from New York art schools, Hollywood studios, and ad agencies, these were men who'd normally be designing posters, not pretending to command tank divisions. They applied every trick they knew, from camouflage design to audio engineering, to fool the deadliest army in Europe. Among them were future fashion icons, famous painters, and Broadway designers. Their creativity became a weapon, and their battlefield was imagination. The Ghost Army operated close to enemy lines. If captured, they couldn't claim protection under the Geneva Convention because they were impersonating real soldiers and units. They carried no heavy weapons, no backup, just rubber tanks, fake radios, and a hell of a poker face. One mistake could have exposed the entire operation and cost thousands of Allied lives, but they stayed committed to the illusion because their lies were saving lives on the front. In the weeks leading up to the invasion of Germany, the Ghost Army launched one of its boldest operations. They faked an entire division, thousands of soldiers that didn't exist. Inflatable tanks lined up in fields, false radio chatter filled the airwaves, and recorded sounds of trucks and troops echoed through the forests. German scouts reported the buildup, and the Nazis fell for it. The real U.S. forces moved in elsewhere, unopposed. The Ghost Army's final act was its most successful. The Ghost Army's work remained classified for decades. Their families never knew what they really did. No medals, no recognition, just silence. But their legacy saved thousands, maybe tens of thousands. And only in recent years did the truth finally come to light. They weren't warriors in the traditional sense, but they fought with paintbrushes, sound reels, and stagecraft. And in the theater of war, they delivered one hell of a performance.